So while he's setting up, I did want to mention, I meant to mention this yesterday, at the top of the Centra schedule in Sketch, there's a folder, there's a link to go to a folder from all of the Centra 6 photos if you want to see some of the action from Centra 6. And there's also a folder that you can upload photos you've taken during Centra 7. And there are also, like the group photo from yesterday is in there already, and just a bunch of things that I've taken. So feel free to upload your photos to Centra 7. If you see something in there that is a photo that includes you and you'd rather it not be in there, you may delete it, or you can contact Vivian or I or Andrea and we will delete that for you. So for privacy and things like that, if you don't want a photo of you in there, hopefully since you're in the group shot, you won't delete the group shot. Let's not do that. But if you see an individual photo of you, feel free to let us know. Great, you all set? Awesome.
Okay, good morning everyone. I'm Chandra from Universitas YRC, located in Jakarta, Indonesia. So today, I will present a project titled Scalable Personalized Treatment Recommendation in Critical Care. So this is just a preliminary result. So this project is a collaboration between YRC and Ichikawa Sensei from NICE and also Tem from Osaka University. So first, I will discuss about the background, why this problem is very important, and after that, I will explain about our proposed method, and then we will show the evaluation and current results, and finally, conclusion and future works. So why treatment recommendation in ICU is very important. So it is common for ICU patient to have sepsis during the ICU stay. So sepsis is a life-threatening organ dysfunction caused by dysregulated host response to infections. So at the beginning, the patient has infection somewhere inside their body, and after that, the bacteria enter the blood and causes multiple organ dysfunction. And it is the leading cause of death for patient in ICU. So how usually doctor manage a patient with sepsis? So they give a kind of treatment called antimicrobial treatment. So basically vasopressor or IV fluids. But here is interesting things. If you see this figure, the x-axis is the time from effective treatment, the duration of effective treatment from the infection, okay, in hours. If you see the black bar, it is the survival fraction. So if the effective treatment is given within first half hour of the infection, the survival rate is very high. It's about 82%. So for every half hour of delay, the survival rate is decreased by 7%. Another interesting we can see in this figure is, if you can see the y-axis, it is the fraction of total patients. The gray bar is the cumulative effective antimicrobial initiation. So less than 10% of the patient given treatment within the first half hour of the infection. Okay. So 50% of the patient receive the treatment after 5 hours. At that time, the survival rate is already below 50%. Okay, so no wonder why sepsis is the leading cause of the death in the ICU. So the General Director of the World Health Organization said that suffering and death from sepsis can be prevented through early diagnosis, timely and appropriate treatment, and effective infection prevention and control measures. So one of the key here is timely and appropriate treatment. So what are the delay factor of this effective treatment? The first one is the definition of sepsis is still evolving. Sepsis happens inside our body, and it is not easily visible for the medical staff. The second one is the treatment complexity. There are variety of drugs, the dosage, and even different patient has different set of effective treatment and dosage. And last one is resource limitation. So medical staff cannot monitor the patient second by second. So what is our proposed solutions? We want to develop kind of personalized treatment recommendation based on reinforcement learning algorithm to improve the patient outcome. Okay, so this is our proposed method. Reinforcement learning usually use the Markov decision process or MDP framework. This is the MDP framework in the ICU context. So the patient here is the environment. We get multivariate time series vital signals from the patient, such as blood pressure, respiratory rate, mental status, etc. And based on these state variables, the agent need to define the state space, action space, and also the reward function. We can also use doctor to give the knowledge for the definition of state, action, and reward function. So based on the given state and its current policy, the agent will provide the action. What is the most effective treatment? And based on this action, the patient will give the next state and also the reward. And this is the overview of our personalized policy. At the beginning, we have multiple patients with different characteristics. We take 48 health variables based on the SOFA variables. First, we do clustering for the state and also the patients, such that patient with the same cluster will have similar behavior for the treatment. So for each cluster, we compute the model, compute the policy, so we have a personalized policy for each cluster. I may skip this detail of... Okay, let's jump up to the evaluation. Okay, we use public data set called Mimic3 Clinical Database. This is publicly and freely available data set. It has more than 61,000 of ICU stays. We do pre-processing using some exclusion and inclusion criteria. We have 4 inclusion criteria, 4 exclusion criteria and 3 inclusion criteria. So after this, applying this inclusion and exclusion criteria, we have about 20,000 ICU stays, and here we can see that most of them are survive. We divided the data into training and test data set with the ratio 80 to 20%. So based on this trained data set, we define the state, action, and reward. Okay. So based on this definition, we compute the reinforcement learning algorithm to create the policy. And model is usually sensitive with the trained data. So we built multiple models, 500 models. Each model has different training and test set with the same proportion. We evaluate the value of each policy using test data. And to reduce the bias, we do bootstrapping 2,000 times over the test set. Okay, so we compare the policy value between clinician policy, AI general policy, and AI personalized policy. So basically, clinician policy is the action taken by the doctor, general policy, if we treat the patient as the same without any clustering or personalization. So we do off-policy evaluation for the AI policy and TD learning for the clinician policy. Okay, as I mentioned before, we generate 500 models, and this is the estimated policy value for each models. As you can see here, model in personalized policy, the base model has the highest estimated policy value. And if we compare the lower bound, personalized policy still has highest estimated policy value. Okay, in this case, we only use small number of health states. Okay, in this experiment, we only use 10. But actually, if we want to scale this experiment into real application, the baseline method use 1,000 patients. So when I try to do experiment with 1,000 states in YARSI, in my university, using our computational powers, it takes almost 40 hours. Right? So for a single experiment, it takes more than 3 days. That's why we need a collaboration with a partner that has strong computational resources. And fortunately, we can collaborate with NICE and also the Osaka University. And here is the result from NICE. So they have about 40 nodes, and for a single node, this is the specification. These graphs show the relationship between the number of CPU cores and average model creation in time. Okay, initially, as we use more CPU cores, the training time model creation is significantly reduced, right? But after some times, the reduction is not very significant. So I think we need, based on this result, we can do not only parallelization, but also build the model simultaneously in many nodes. Okay, what next? So in terms of the model creation, there are a lot of possibility. At the moment, we only use discrete state space and also discrete action space. But actually, we can also use continuous state space and continuous action space. There are also many possible ways to do personalization, and for the AI reinforcement learning algorithm, currently we use Q-learning, family of sample-based learning, but the current method is the function approximation, right, such as deep reinforcement learning. So what I want to say is there are a lot of things that we need to explore, and it needs good computing resources. That's why we need to collaborate in this project. So conclusion, treatment recommendation using personalized policy computation are promising because they have better estimated policy value, so this is a good direction. And building multiple models simultaneously across computational resources is more efficient than parallelizing the construction of a single model. And lastly, the availability and accessibility of high-performance computing resources can significantly improve the development of novel and better RL models. So what is the roadmap? So in Indonesia, there are 9 levels of technology readiness called technology readiness level. The first 3 levels is basic research, the next 3 is applied research, and the last 3 is development research. So currently we are in this step. So we creating novel algorithm with public data